12 o'clock. I thought I said it to 6 o'clock, so that was my fault. Secondly, I want to wish every Leo in Leo season a happy birthday. Every Leo season. I know my mom, I believe she's a Leo. She was born August 17th, 1959. 1959. So blessings to all the Leos. And to now we'll get on to what this live is all about. This live, I want to deviate from the political side a little bit and to talk about what I've been not dying or itching to talk to you about, a certain person who I believe is a great creator of his own comic book, who I believe is to be a good owner, a successful one. Uh, but there's just some things that we need to agree to disagree on. But before I get into that, I want to show you who I'm talking about.
What up, everybody? We have officially hit $2.2 million on the ISOM #2 campaign. What a campaign this has been! The second multi-million-dollar campaign over the last year for this new company, man, and this is massive for us. It is legitimizing the company, letting us know what our trajectory continues to be as we continue to invest into this company. So thank you all so much. We have look at this. We got 11,844 covers of cover A, over 12,000 for cover B. Again, this is insane. We got cover C, which has like a little under 1,000 left of those that you will ever be available for.
That was basically the person that I support as not only as a business owner, a comic book owner. We'll get into all the little details of who went, why, what, and how. But first and foremost, when it comes to his political views, I try to stay out of it, per se. I try to stay out of his political views, and because it's not really, it's hard to describe when he describes Republicans and Democrats, for example, that if you're too much to the right or too much to the left, you're basically describing your view as something of, I would say, a bad person, per se. I try to not to get in the way of that. I try not to get in the way of his lack of his knowledge of leadership. Plus, he throws in some black community talk, which I also try to stay away from, because even though he is married to he's married to a black wife and he has black children, he seems to come off a little, a little Sambo-ish. But as I look on and as I listen to what he has to say, which I'm going to be playing in a minute, this is some things I agree, and there's some things that I disagree. Now, I'm with the brother on us rising to occasion and that we have no excuses, but I don't want to say tends to go a little bit too far with the shit. So I'm just going to stop talking and show you what he's been ranting about.
It gets to a point to where you guys look pathetic. I don't know other way to put that. I'm trying to disrespect when I say that. It's just that I just want you to understand what you are doing is something that is really unique, and it's something that you've had the resources to course correct for a very long time. And instead of actually doing that, what you have wasted your creative and monetary resources begging major studios, legacy folks, white executives, which trips me out because you have many of these guys are everything blackety black, black fist in the air, when it really boils down to, no, you're begging white executives to represent you. And so I don't really care about the catchphrases that people use when they get on the internet and espouse these ideas like, I'm so pro-black. No, you're not. You're all cornballs. None of you guys are actually quote unquote pro-black. Half the time you guys advocate or justify the most degenerate stuff when it comes to black culture and black families, but that's neither here nor there. You look like suckers because the entire premise really here is from a position of inferiority where you are asking other people to do things for you. And I always have to separate this because I want people to understand and not get it twisted. I would never tie the value of a man or woman like that solely to their race aspect, because that's not something that they worked for. You just woke up black, like it's how it worked, or you came out the womb that way. You had no control over it. It wasn't anything that you earned, right? I want people to understand those are not my terms. I'm speaking to the terms of these guys with a fist in the air, pro DI, pro all of this stuff, where essentially I'm just cutting through the nonsense and the phrases and just getting down to the root of what you're actually doing. And that's begging white people to embrace you and begging white people to fund you. That's what it ultimately boils down to. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's the truth. And I'm correct on this. Objectively speaking, that's what this ultimately boils down to. When you sit and gripe about Marvel all day long about how they are not representing something, you don't own Marvel. Black people never own Marvel. Black people didn't even create the characters that you guys are talking about, and they're not in the executive boards at all. They have nothing to do with any of that. So your entire position here is, as with everything else, you are begging to either be subsidized by white people or you're begging to have them, I guess, represent you. That's from a position of inferiority, because people think that they could catchphrase their way out of doing that. So they could call everybody that thinks differently a coon, and they can say that they all black. That's a mask that they put on themselves, and they look in the mirror and they think that's actually them, and that's all that they're doing. They're masking who they actually are, and that's a person that sees themselves as inferior, and instead of actually creating and doing and being part of the solution, you put yourself in a place of inferiority, and you're always begging for other people to move your world for you. It is the corniest thing, but that's pretty much all of black activism. That's all that it is. It's begging to be accepted by, you've heard me say this term for the last decade. They are begging to be accepted by white people. The unfortunate thing is that there's many white people that think otherwise because they actually believe, and they make this overcomplicated where, oh, there's these people that all they do is they just despise white folk, and that's all that it is. I'm not saying there aren't folks out there that despise white folks. I'm saying more so they despise themselves. And this is what Malcolm was talking about in that video that I showed, when he was like, instead of trying to force your way into the factory and the bedroom and kitchen of white people, we need to have the black person look at himself and accept himself, and then he won't have a reason to be begging for other people to do other things for him. This is what always tripped me out, when you have these people that are very pro-black and they use terms like coon and house Negro and all these other terms, throwing that stuff out there, and then their whole entire premise of their activism is begging people for acceptance. Who actually is the self-hating black person there? The person that thinks differently on you than you on a political issue, or the person that is literally begging white executives to do something for them? Which one? And this is what has tripped me out. You've had folks, and it's not just a me thing, right? I have seen other people that are darker in skin that have had this stuff levied at them, and at the other side of their mouth is them begging white people for acceptance. They will never admit that. But don't go off the catchphrase. Don't go off the social media and the hashtags and the bios. Don't go off any of that. Go off of what they are actually doing. And what are they doing in this scenario that I just named? Begging white executives to represent them. Begging white executives to subsidize them. Begging white executives and companies owned by a bunch of white people to subsidize their efforts, fund their projects, to place their projects into these other places. That's what you're doing. And so it's not a new position that I have stumbled across. It's something that I've been saying. If people actually bothered to listen to me, instead of thinking, oh, he says things that I don't like, he has a political position that differs from me, and therefore he must hate himself because black. And this is what trips me out when I see these cats. And this is no disrespect. I want to be clear. I want to be very clear. There is absolutely nothing wrong with interracial marriage. Okay, there's absolutely nothing wrong with people that have decided that that's the person that they love and adore, and the person that they.
Let me pause it right there, and let me not educate because you are already educated, but let me inform you. Let me inform you that in that half of a segment that you were on, that half of a rant that you were on, I would agree that again that that black folks in particular, and I don't if I had to look at if you were talking about people in the comic book world or people in the real versus people in the real world. So I combined them all together. And you know what? You are absolutely correct when you say we need to basically, and I'll help you with the word that I know that you were trying to spew out of your mouth, and that's the word organize. Black people need to come to, put aside their little differences and whatever issue that they're having with, the color of their skin. It used to be a time where it was uh, dark black versus light skinned black, but it's not that anymore. All that is, and you rarely hear that type of shit anymore. Now it's what lineage where you're from, what your lineage is, and where you're from, and all this other shit. And I totally agree with that. You know, just put aside your petty difference because the United States of America is not going to hand anything to you. They even confirmed it months ago that they weren't going to give anything to you. They sided with Israel and they sided with another country, and they both said, all three countries illustrated that they weren't going to do anything for you. And that's giving you reparations. So my deal is, I mean, put aside your petty differences, put that money together and start organizing and getting what you want. Respect. Because as far as I'm concerned, white folks do not respect you. White folks don't respect you. Asians don't respect you. Native Americans don't respect. I want to go back. So Chinese people despise you. If you ever been to China, they despise you, but they accept you. They just don't accept you in other areas. And so so he is correct on that. Also, he is also correct when it comes to owning your own stuff. Owning your own stuff in a vacuum, passing that money around 8 to 12 times, as Dr. Claudia Anderson included, and you looking yourself in the mirror and have a do for self mentality. I get all that. As far as the racial aspect of it, the getting with other races when you're black, no, I'm not with that, bro. I'm not with that. I've I've seen it too many times where uh, blacks get with white people. There was a time, as a matter of fact, that you couldn't even gawk at a white woman, let alone say hi to her without the white man's permission. But yet we seem to forget about all that because we're in 2026. Like that makes a fucking difference. But yeah, that's the one thing that pisses me off. They just go into it's another year. It's another year. It just feels like the same old shit. I mean, they just move the needle just a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit, and you're supposed to get with the times. Oh no. They plan on scooting you out of here slowly but surely. Look at look at Jasmine Crockett for one, right? Look at Abdul El Saeed. I mean, he had just won the primary. And now he's getting ready for a general election, and already they're calling him a terrorist. This is not the first time this happened before, and it won't be the last. Although I have to look at Dual Saeed with a side eye. And you might not have took an APAC money, but you were siding with Hakeem Jeffries, not to do away with the conversation that I would wish that me and Eric would have that discussion. This is not a debate. This is just merely my feelings and my opinions on his ranting. And I had to, and for the longest time, I wanted to speak to him when I had opportunity to speak to him. I was like, why do you feel so strongly about this? And why do you feel so strongly about that? Now I have the opportunity because I was so busy alerting everyone, which everyone should have been alerted that, Trump is, he's going to get us in a lot of hurt. But I do agree with him on mostly on the ranting which he had displayed, but the wokey woke blackity black stuff. I don't what's that all about, my G? What's that all about? I mean, yeah, you are doing incredible things, but I don't know if you seem to forget people. It's not just what people. People aren't lazy. Black people were never lazy. We just don't want the same things that's been happening to our ancestors what happened to us when, for example, when we keep harking on the Rosebud in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but when our ancestors built those things in a vacuum, and of course the thing that happened, it's not in Atlanta or whatever that place is in Georgia, but you had people who were sinking what white folks generally sunk 4,000 black people underneath water. And okay, it's not that they aren't afraid of building anything. It's not afraid of it's none of that. It's a simple fact that they're thinking long term, and every time they do something, the goalpost is being moved. That's all they're saying. And they don't necessarily have the law on their side. They do not. But I would say to these particular people about the law, if you would have did this 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago and did for self, you would have had the ability to create your own laws once that money would have been passed around and you build your own establishments. You would have had to create your own laws. You would have the ability to create your own infrastructure. You had the ability to have your laws on your own side, your own media on your own side. You would have had those abilities if you would have had read specific books or had listened to your grandmothers, your great grandmothers, your grandfathers, your great grandfathers, your great grandfathers along the way, and would have kept their establishments. But yet there were those, not everyone, there are those who sold those establishments for money that depreciates in value. But going back to that, I don't understand that wokey woke black shit. I'm not asking you to change your tune, but I'm asking you specifically, what do you mean by that, bro? I mean, you don't describe to that. I mean, do you describe to the Black Panthers and the good works that they have done? Or are you describing to those, or are you trying to relate yourself to the Rainbow Coalition? Now, I'm not talking about the LBGTQ. That get that out your head. It didn't start with that. it started with the Black Panthers and Fred Hampton and Fred Hampton and the other brothers and what they tried to establish with certain whites that didn't didn't want to meet the status quo with white supremacy, but they wanted to be better than those people. And of course, the Hispanics who wanted to be better than and what was going on, and a few little Asians here and there, and they wanted to establish a relationship, and not only establish a relationship, they wanted to establish a coup. They wanted to establish a world that we can deal and trade and buy and sell for one another in one world. Unfortunately, J. Edgar Hoover had other plans. And for those who don't know who J. Edgar Hoover is, I suggest you go Google him. Let's continue with his rant.
They wanted to spend the rest of their life with is over their race. That's perfectly fine. I'm not saying there is something inherently wrong with that. What I am saying is that by your own standards, you look stupid sitting here calling other people house Negro or self-hating black people or coon, all this other stuff. When you yourself are either biracial, you have shacked up with a person that isn't your race, or you are justifying dysfunctional behavior by black culture. There is no way you can come out of that acting that way and claim that you are somehow pro-black, or worse, being an absolute hypocrite and claiming that other people are some self-hating black people. It trips me out. You know the amount of people that, and maybe that's the overcompensation about it, right? Because you're trying to prove so hard that you're black. When I sit and watch these cats with lightest mulatto cats, when I sit and watch these light-skinned cats, again, nothing wrong with that, but I'm sitting there looking at them and they calling me every name of the book, and I'm like, wait a minute, what are you going on about? You care so much about this blackity black stuff. All my family's black. My mom is, my dad is. I'm married to a black woman, and I have not dysfunctional, right? This is what I'm talking about. You get these other cats to, pro-black and all this, and you don't even live a lifestyle that facilitates actually black growth in your country that you're in, dude. You clowns got baby mamas running around here. You're not with the person that actually is the mother of your child. Shut the hell up talking to me about pro-black. And again, I understand. Stuff happens. I'm not saying that everything's perfect. What I am saying, you can't go levying that craziness at people who did things the right way. All that pro-black, black love stuff, I live it. Not talking about it, leading with it, bragging about it with hashtags and bios and stuff. I live it. I don't have children outside of my marriage. I'm not biracial. My wife is not biracial. Therefore, my kid is not biracial. I am living a lifestyle that is conducive to actually advancing the life of black. And here you have a bunch of folks begging to be accepted, begging to be embraced, begging to be funded, begging to be represented by white folk that have the nerve to call folks like myself and other creators derogatory names.
Okay. With that one, we're going to have to disagree on some things. First, let me start this off with this. If I know there's a group of people, FBAs, I can't say ADOS, but ADOS included. They like to be accepted. They like to be accepted by those in the broad that they want to be accepted by the 1%. Good luck with that. And it's like I said before, you're not going to get what you want with these people. But we've heard this thing about, my wife is white, my children. We've heard all that stuff before by a certain individual, but he himself, was criticizing our speakers, our ancestors, the ones that came before us, and we had to exclude him from we had to exclude him from the black community. because he was talking as if he were black, but yet his excuse was to wake the eyes up of every black person in America and said that conservatism is the only way to go. And I'm telling you, we are not conservatives because number one, we don't accept America just because the way it is now. That American flag, if I had it in my possession, I would burn it to the fucking ground. Um, I'm not gonna shy away from what happened to us back then. I'm not gonna shy away from the hangings, the decapitations, what happened to Emmett Till, what happened to you know millions and millions of black people, millions and black people in abroad. I'm not feeling to do all that. What I'm fin to do is I'm going to continue to be on white people's neck until they say these words. We fucked up. We fucked up with Jim Crow. We fucked up with Redline. We fucked up with the Dred Scott decision. We fucked up with all that shit. We fucked the fuck with the one thing that I wish black people would just have white folks erase from memory, and that is the Willie Lynch. Just burn the Willie Lynch papers and just burn Willie Lynch altogether. That's the one thing that I wish our people would had gone to the courthouse and said we want to exclude Willie Lynch and we also want to exclude Dred Scott. Dred Scott is basically we have there are laws that we don't have to respect for black people, and we just have certain individuals, and I hope that's not yourself that says that conservatism is a way to go. I hope that's not the case because even though I do support you, I do support your work. I've been supporting your work for a couple of years now. I mean, I got the comic books, I got the shirts and everything. I want to continue to support our brother, and because it's the right thing. It's the right thing to do. Although I still have my stance on Black First. I still have my stance on liberation. I still have my stance on what I perceive is to be justice. And I don't know if you're justifying whatever it is that you're justifying. It's quite confusing. But let me go back to that blacky black thing for a second. We all know that you're black, my guy, but are you black in spirit? Are you black in spirit? Because this is the thing. A lot of us have lost our way because we're too tribalism. I get it. We are way too tribalism. We are way too far apart from one another. But it sounds like to me that, I mean, of course you hang out with a lot of you hang out with a lot of white people. I get it. You hang out with a lot of white people. You had a white band. It's no different from Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix, his whole band was fucking white. I get it. But and of course the dude that sang Cult of Personality, Living Color, his band was white. But he didn't lose his way. And I don't want anyone under me losing their way of who they are as a black man, as a black woman. How well do you know your history? How well do you know your God? We had way too many things done to us, and it is traumatizing. It is traumatizing, and yet we are still striving and thriving to survive. We're in survival mode right now. And again, going back, it's not the fact. It is not the fact that we are lazy. Some of us are, but it's not the fact that we don't want to build for ourselves. It's not the fact that we don't want to go to work. It's for the simple fact that when we build something, we don't want the same thing to happen to us. We want long term, and we want protection. We want protection under the law, as Frederick Bailey would put it. We want the same protect Frederick Bailey, aka Frederick Douglass. We want the same protection under the law, and you get the hell out of our way. Just get the hell out of our way, and so we can build our infrastructure. No, they had to shut us down. They had to shut us down by burning our villages. They had to shut us down by burning and meet and sending the white guy with the briefcase with all that money. And if we didn't sell it, it was going to be a party that day. Trust and believe me, I have family in Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that would tell you that there were Ku Klux Klanmen that used to drive by each and every single day and honk their horns and yell out the N-word. I don't know if they do that to this very day, but there's one thing that we do have, and there's one thing that we had along the way. We had them things on us. We had the things. My grandmother, my grandfather, my mother's father, and my mother's father's father. We all had guns on us. We all had guns. This is the thing that I wanted to express to you, Mr. July, is like we have had it. We have had it up to here with all of what's going on in America. The hangings, the drowning of 13-year-old kids. We have had it up to here, and no justice is being done. No justice. But I say, and of course, we got a boy that's apparently, possibly, maybe going to do 35 years in prison. 35 years in prison, all because he tried to defend himself. All because he was just basically sitting and minding his own fucking business. And I'm talking about Carmelo Anthony, when he was literally just freaking sitting there. But yet, we have a world. You live in the state of Texas, my guy. The number one state in America that has a racial problem. The number one state in America who has a racial problem. And you have the nerve to come to us with the blackity black stuff? I mean, get a clue. Get a clue. Of course, you're going to say it doesn't affect me. What if it did? Have you ever bothered to ask yourself, what if it actually did? What if we actually had people around in your city, in your state, around you, I mean, you have had problems with white folks criticizing you about how you made your comic book. It's not the comic book of old. It's not Spider-Man, Superman, or anything. What type of powers did they have? What the type of powers did they have? It doesn't even make no sense. The story that don't even make no sense. I was like, you either buy it or you don't buy it. I bought it. Makes perfect sense to me. I've looked at the still shots. I looked at the previews of the sketches or whatever. Looked pretty good to me. It looked pretty good to me, my guy. But yet you had white folks criticize you about your shit. But you took it head on. Me, I would have told them simply, if you don't like it, go f yourself. That's how I would proceed it. Because I don't expect you to understand my work. But this is how it started. Okay, real quick story. Eric July, aka Young Ripper Universe, the person who is who I'm talking about right now. He proceeded to make his own comic book because, quite frankly, he was quite upset. And so was I, because it after Endgame, after the Avengers Endgame, they started coming out with these sad, soft LBGT's comic book movies that probably it just didn't make no sense, and they just started changing storylines, and then now all of a sudden they're not coming out with, they're canceling black comic book movies. They're canceling Blade. They're canceling Wonder Man, which I was looking forward to Wonder Man. And I don't know what's going on with the Black Captain America, which Black Captain America, played by Anthony Mackie, should have stayed as, Hawk, or whatever his original name was. Should have stayed as that. But it's I treat it just like Jackie Robinson. If Jackie Robinson would have stayed in the Negro Leagues, I mean, he was that guy. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jackie Robinson was that guy. And they could have named the Negro Leagues after Jackie Robinson. Falcon, thank you. But I mean, he could have went off and could have ventured off, and it could have been ours. But I get it. You wanted to prove to the world that you did the Martin Luther King thing, and you wanted to belong. But do you know how many strokes this man had? I mean, you literally got booed, hosed, harassed. I mean, every city that you went to, every city that Jackie went to, he damn near had a heart attack dealing with these people. I mean, they didn't. A cop was going to arrest you while you were just playing baseball. I mean, these people hate you, literally. But in 2026, going on into 2027, we must change our way of thinking. We must change I mean, we're rolling on with the times. We just want to be accepted. No, it doesn't work that way. They are not going to accept you. If they were going to accept you, Jasmine Crockett would have been in the position where she should be in right now. Hell, I would say that Cori Bush would have been in a position that she should be in by now. But because of the fact that we gotta side with the Jews and the true Jews, or whoever the hell they think they are, it's like, if you're not for us, you're against this type of thing. And I get it. But the world that we live in ain't ours until we take it. And the way we take it is, one, we build it, but we are not organized. We are not organized. And the leaders who are with, the Al Sharptons, and the Jesse Jackson, he's gone. May he rest in peace. They're not gonna help you organize. They're not gonna help you organize. The people who I elect as whistleblowers, why do you think they're not in the position that they are right now? Just think about that. And this is practically in your city. Jasmine is in your state. She is practically in your state. And they spent over $40 million to make sure that this woman would not be in this position. Instead, they got James Tellerico going around and saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, make sure you take Jasmine Crockett's name out of your mouth." I was like, what is that supposed to do? At the end of the day, I just look at you as a regular old white man. Nothing wrong with you. Nothing wrong with you, because I keep saying you're a good guy. But I just fear the worst for Texas. I feel the worst for every state, including my own, because it's the same old, same old. We've been dealing with this stuff for decades and decades and decades, and we keep waiting around for people to do things for us that we can't do for ourselves. So I get it. But the one thing I do not get, Mr. Eric July, it is I do not get that if you feel so strongly about your people this way, then may I suggest you, I don't know, talk to the brothers, I guess? I don't know. The one people I would prefer not to talk to because they can't, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, is FBAs. That's the one thing I will say. Because one way, 1 minute you try to side with them, it's like we're cosplaying, and then the next minute, just we will not fuck with you. It's like I knew you was a tether. I knew you was a tether. A tether, 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 tether. I don't understand it and I don't get it. You might as well decide to side with us because my guy, you're on your own. You're only 13% of the population, and each one of those you separate yourselves. Not only are you hating on yourselves, but you're hating on me, you're hating on everyone, but you're not accepting of yourself. Or I said all that wrong. You every time you hate on us, you're hating on yourself. You're hating on black women. You're hating on each and every single person who looks like you but may speak a different language. That's what you're doing when you're just calling us particularly terrorists because you want to be the ones. You want to be in that number. Well, I tell you one thing. FBAs, foundational Black Americans, they literally want to prove that, of course, they are stronger than Pan Africans. They are literally smarter than Adolfs and all this other type of shit. Really, they're just a walking, talking time bomb, which literally they are what Tasha K called last night the Ku Klux Klan, but she ended up rearranging it, apologizing. I was like, I wouldn't apologize. I would have stuck to what I stuck to. But because you have a brand, not really, but because you have a brand, you had to switch up and you had to apologize. I wouldn't even apologize to none of them motherfuckers because none of the shit that they're saying, they just end up gurgitating. They just end up gurgitating and it just saying the same shit. It's like, I built this. My ancestors built this. I have a lineage here. I have a lineage. Well, your lineages went out the door when you sold your prophecy. I will say your prophecy. I would say your prophecy. Your prophecy, your infrastructure. You sold all that shit when your grandfather, your great grandfather is the one that gave you all these specific things. You sold them down the river. You have no prophecy. You have nothing in America. You pointed to Timberland boot and you said you made it famous. Who the fuck do you think you are? Yeah, I don't mean to go into that rant, but it is what it is. But going back to Eric's random, we need to come together and have a discussion of the whole blackity black stuff, because there were certain people like the Panthers, for example, who did right by their people, who were medicating their people, who were feeding their people, who were educating their people. Are you talking about those particular blackity blacks? Or are you just talking about the blackity blacks that just love to open their mouths and say we're a part of a lineage, we're a part of a culture that Jamaicans and Haitians and whoever else ain't with us because they're over in their land? I'm like, nigga, please. That's what I would just basically say. But I want your take on that, my guy. You need to clear some of that stuff up.
And that's why I have been leading with this. It's for losers. And I took, at least on this subject matter, because I don't want anybody to get it twisted, like when I throw these men out there, like these names, like I adopt their philosophy, like top to bottom. That's not the case. But what Booker T. Washington, this is not a new debate. Booker T. Washington was having the same debate with W.B. Du Bois. Malcolm was having the same debate with Martin Luther King Jr. on this very subject matter. And that is, number one, you have one side that focuses on, we're not waiting for you to move the world. We're just going to do what we need to do to move it for ourselves. And then you have another side that either believes in elitism or thinking that it's other folks, particularly white people, and their obligations to help you. And you have more resources, you have more access, you have more opportunities than your grandfathers did, than your grandmothers did, than your great-great-grandmothers did. Like the patriarch of my family going way back was a friggin' slave. And he, in his own life, came out, and that's the OG Isom, you know what I mean? My great-great-great-great-grandfather started a slave, died a property owner. And maybe that's why folks don't understand that history and where they come from. I don't even find myself in a moral position considering what he had to go through and everybody afterwards and what they had to live through when they were actually oppressed versus where I'm at now. I do not find myself to be in a moral position to be griping, complaining, and crying. I have way more resources than my great-great-great-great-grandfather had. I have more resources than my mother had and my father had. I have more opportunity than they ever had. And if you had folks back then, actual slaves, like Frederick Douglass, like Booker T. Washington, that people that grew up in one time came out the other way. And they themselves were saying what I am saying specifically on this subject. How are you in a moral position to tell them they're incorrect? They had less resources than you. And their mindset was like, we don't need, get out. That was whole Frederick Douglass's whole thing. Frederick Douglass said, all we want is to be equal, quote unquote, under the law. Other than that, get out the way. I will take it from there. Just give me that and get out the way. Obviously, he was under a much more oppressive time than I am. And y'all are still griping, bitching, and moaning about the legacy of slavery or that you don't have resources. Or y'all went through all that. How are people that actually lived through that coming out of that thinking the way they did? Actual former slaves, man. Not hypothetical. None of y'all were slaves. Actual former slave came out with a mindset like that. And you're telling folks like me, we're being unrealistic because we expect people to shut up and get to work and be part of the solution if that's your complaint. And Dan said it perfectly in the chat. He said, the poorest among us live like kings of the past. So my whole thing about this is, it's obviously something that I'm passionate about. I just wish people actually bothered to listen to what I was saying when I've been growing about this for the better part of like over a decade. I've been talking about this very subject matter. And instead of y'all trying to repackage that to be some sort of anti-black stupidity and actually listen to me like, no. And you guys begging for sloppy seconds from white characters is loser stuff. How about you create new ones and original ones? Are they going to change into Batman, Spider-Man, Superman overnight? No. The X-Men were created in 1963. They did not appear on any like animation like that or anything until almost 20 years after the fact, which was the Spider-Man stuff. Spider-Man. It wasn't until 30 years when they really popped off in the 90s. So it's not going to happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight with them. But at some point, you got to start somewhere. Everybody trying to skip the line. Look at, well, they got resources. Therefore, they should be representing us doing this and that and investing. Create your own. And I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody out there that's out there doing great things. I am just saying, why aren't you doing it yourself? You have more resources yourself. Why? What is stopping you from it? If you don't have the creative juices, then go ahead and say that. Say that you don't have the capabilities to do something that's good enough for it to catch on without it being tied to some freaking mainstream character or project or something. Just go ahead and say that. Why talk around it? Just go ahead and say that you don't think you can do that. I can't relate. I'm proof that that's bullcrap. I created original black characters. I created characters of all different walks of life. I created Asian characters. I created white characters. I created characters that sell by the tens of thousands. No mainstream investment. Mainstream acting like I don't even exist. What I am saying is to get out there and be part of the change that you want to see instead of.
Well, okay. This is where we agree with some things and we disagree with some things. Um, Again, I can say all day that you have a great comic book company in ISOM and in the Ripper universe, and you did successfully um come out with many characters throughout the years, and it's been over a year for me, economic wise, with trying to get my family, trying to get this house situated where we need to be, but things ain't looking so good. But we're here. We're here now in our brand new home and making the best of it. I mean, it looks nice. It looks nice on the outside. It looks nice on the inside. It looks even better. But trying to get some things, and hopefully people would not you just support me and support the channel, and we'll go on from there. But putting aside all that you did successful, and we can harp on that all day long. The thing that you are right about is, and again, I'll say it again, we do need to organize and we do need to build our own, because again, those comic book companies, any company, I should say, any company that America First, you on your own, you see where that gets you. The hanging of our children. If you look at it in our perspective and you see there's a certain percentage who look like you and who are successful. A very small percentage. And it's not like we don't, it's not for the lack of trying. It's not for the lack of, oh, we see these things, we want these things on our own. Is the goalpost keeps getting moved. The laws keep getting changed. And we read the laws, and we look at things in perspective. We would say, oh, these things were here when we first read it, but we keep reading, and we keep following up, and whoever disagrees with us, we always go to that one law that was created, right? But apparently, these people, white folks, will do anything. Well, you just say white folks because they are absolutely in charge of America. We look at these things in a vacuum and say it's frustrating. It's really frustrating. Like right now, Donald Trump believes that America is better where it's at right now. He believes that America is doing great things. No, the hell it ain't. We got gas prices that are high. We got groceries that are high. Electricity is high. Energy. People are, messing with the water supply and giving all our water, our resources to these data center companies. Why do we need these many these data centers? It's insane. I would wish you would just put it underwater and just let all that shit go underwater. And literally, I would have had no problems with it. But instead, you just literally just take our resources. Pretty soon, you're going to be taking off. We're going to have a high ass bill because of these electric companies, or these data center companies. We're going to have a high ass electric bill. We're the one that are going to have to pay for this on our taxes. And literally, Donald Trump is going to get us in deep trouble with the war. He's literally saying that America is American and everything is successful, better than Obama, better than Obama, better than Obama. You know how many times he's mentioned Obama's name? Do you know how many times? More than Joe Biden, more than Sleepy Joe. He has mentioned Obama's name so many times. He literally has Obama in his sleep. But you want us to look at things at a certain way and not bitch, moan, and complain. If white folks were straightforward, like Asians are, we probably wouldn't even have this problem. But it's always, oh, come in, a land of opportunity. This is a picture of a mountain of gold. People don't like to read the small prints. We, the people, meaning white folks. We, the people, meaning white folks. You got to read your Constitution, my guy. You really have to read your Constitution and read the Constitution out loud to yourself and read it all the way through. And you tell me this Constitution is this for our people? Is the Constitution is these bylaws for our people? Why do you think? Why do you think our ancestors were on the front lines of World War One? On the front lines, ready to get killed. Why do you think they put them in their position? So they're the first ones to get hit. They're the first ones to get hit with bombs and bullets and stuff. But these people were striving to survive, my guy. Striving. Food, water, and certain resources. And finally, when they got those resources, they were burned to the ground. They were literally burned to the ground. And I'm not saying that we can achieve those things now. We can't achieve, we can't produce our own banks. We can't produce our own grocery stores. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is when it comes to equal defense under the protection of the law, we don't feel so safe. There's certain laws for whites and there's certain laws for blacks. Oh, it's for everybody. No, it's not. It's not. A white person can stab a Hispanic kid and get 10 years in prison, while a black boy nearly defends himself and gets 35 years. It's not equal. Not equal. So when we're bitching and complaining, yes, double standard. When you're bitching and when we're bitching and complaining and all this other shit, you know why. So stop acting like you do.
Reducing yourself to griping and complaining and moping when show gets canceled or they ain't doing these characters justice, and y'all don't have anything of your own. And I don't know what the deal is with like the Milestone versus DC stuff, and I don't know how their deal is structured to where DC becomes like the exclusive publisher, or if that exclusivity exists. But sitting here watching people talking about y'all need to buy all these books to show DC that y'all actually care about that. I don't know what y'all's deal structure is, but why is the Milestone publishing their own books? And maybe there's a legitimate legal reason that they're not doing that, but that's been my position on that very clearly, especially in this day and age where you don't need to go through them. If you want more Icon books and Rocket and Static, and you want all these books, why aren't they just self-publishing these? And if they can't, then that speaks to a greater issue, that this thing that y'all want so bad and are waiting to get more like content out of is unfortunately tied up in this mega corporation. Again, going back to what I said, do y'all actually really own that? And again, I don't want people to misquote me because I don't really know what's happening here. You are, as a fan, not even talking about the creator, you as the fan are sitting here asking them, which has you in a position to you're basically begging DC to do something to represent your culture or these types of characters. You don't own DC. You never have. And I say this as one of the biggest fans of that company. Therefore, at some point, and I'm right there with anybody, like, y'all used to tell me this, but it turns out that many of these folks were trying to get me.
Sorry.
Shut up. They didn't think that I was actually going to do it because it didn't stop them from complaining when I got on the other side. And now I don't even talk about what's happening in mainstream stuff like that outside of like economic issues and things that impact the industry. Like I have to as a responsible owner have to keep tabs on what the industry is doing as far as the comic book industry. But I went and did my own thing. I ain't the only gig in town. I'm not the only one capable. You can all go do your own thing. So that has been my argument for the last week. If this is your complaint, and I think much of it's superficial, that's why I'm telling y'all, I'm going by what you're saying, not what I'm saying. Like, you guys are the blackity black pro black fist in it. That's tying our worth. And I'm saying, okay, cool. Let's accept those terms. Why ain't y'all doing your own thing? Why is so much of your creative resources on tokenization? You race swapping anime characters and manga characters and trying to get the black version of Spider-Man or something like that. Is most creative y'all can get. Are you telling me that's the best y'all can do? White Blazer says in the chat, if Google AI is anything to go by, apparently there's a legal reason why Milestone can't publish their own books. Again, it's a problem either one way or the other, right? Let's accept that that's the truth. Which I was sure that there was something there. Okay, that's a reality. We know some people, unfortunately, are no longer with us. That was very integral to that. Why do we have to stay locked in history? That's my argument. That's been my position. Why? Do what your grandfathers did and create. Instead of saying, hey, you need to do this. How about you just do it? You have more resources than you have, especially with entertainment. You have more access to eyeballs than anybody has ever had before you. Now, it does require purposeful action. You got to go support the thing. You got to go create the thing. It requires purposeful action, but you are all from the outside looking in, begging. If you have a flat out refusal to consider anything outside of that spectacle and a flat out refusal to get out there and create rather than gripe and complain. Everybody's looking for the next thing to be bought and sold off, like, and that's another thing people are doing. Like, you get these original creations, and the first thing that y'all go do is sell off the rights to some mega corporation. What good does that do you? You still don't own it. So that's been my position. I've been clear, and I hope people that are now coming around to it understand what I am saying now more than they ever had before. I never came from a position of anti-blackness or anti-anything. It was always from a position of, okay, this is the playing field. This is the reality. Adjust, act, purposeful action to build that better future that you want to see rather than asking it for it to be built for you is essentially what people have been doing. Predict.
So that was basically it. And again, I get it. I get the grind. I get the emotion. I get the action. I get it. But I don't think you fully get, and this is the reason why, people would actually call you out your name other than the child of God. And I was that close to calling you that myself. I mean, I don't know what you don't get, man. It's not like we can go to a mega corporation, or we can go to the government and say we have been done wrong to. I mean, they don't see. Again, we are living in America right now where they literally are trying to tear away Black history. They are literally tearing away history. And they're trying to say that, did you know, for example, that white people have their own civil rights movement? And white folks have their own civil rights movement? I mean, this is some, wow. I wish I could edit this. But they are saying that, and Donald Trump has made these people emboldened to believe that they were being done wrong to. No. He believes he's being done wrong to. That's why he's literally trying to drain the United States of all this money, right? $1.8 billion, $23 billion, giving his sons companies that they literally don't have the knowledge or the wherewithal to run those companies. He's trying to be like the Rothschilds, the Bilderbergs, all those particular elitist people. I mean, just the trying to get the trying to get J Sixers some money because they were being done wrong and because of the First Amendment. No, 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 no. The First Amendment is you actually shouting out loud. You don't go into a facility that you're unauthorized to be in, by the way, and start looting and tearing and defecating all over the place. That's not First Amendment law. That's called insanity. That's literally calling you to being shot on the spot. Try to do that to any other country. Try doing that in any other country and see what happens to you. They literally have a fucking firing squad for their asses. But again, I get the motion. And let me go to something a little bit goofy, go a little bit fun for a moment. Milestone Comics being owned by a black man who I believe suffered a heart attack. He couldn't before then. He couldn't even get publishing for his comics. I mean, he did come out with Static Shock and I believe it was Icon. Um, Two big prominent characters now owned by DC because the man had a heart attack, allegedly. It's very unfortunate. We had black comic book writers that could have came together and brainstormed obviously some type of comic book that brought all characters together, including ISOM, and I like ISOM. I like ISOM and I like Bloodroof. I plan on getting Bloodroof. Um, the guy who created Milestone Comics, he had some type of disease. I don't want to farewell. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but let's just say he passed away. I'll just say that he just passed away, and so it ended up. I believe it ended up going to a son. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it went to a son, and apparently things didn't go well, so it ended up going to DC Comics. Um, you can't have two Supermen at the same time. You can't have a white Superman and you can't have a black Superman. You just can't have those. It most likely, the white Superman is going to win every single time. That's just the artifacts effect. I mean, look what they're doing with Falcon right now. They gave him Captain America's shield, which I don't. Okay, you might give her something. Okay, what's going on right now? Hold on one second. Came together and brainstormed and possibly would have been one of the coming together and purchasing their comic books. But comic books are very rarely purchased nowadays, and that's why they don't cost but merely $2 or $3. I mean, comic books nowadays used to cost like 17, $20. I literally saved up. I literally saved up when I was younger to go to a comic book store every Saturday, every single freaking Saturday to buy a comic book. Now they're only $3. I mean, the new comic books, I mean, they're kind of like la 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 la, but nevertheless, fortunately, it is what it is. Owning your own stuff. I get it. I say all that. No one's begging. No one's bitching and moaning. And I do agree beg the when you beg the these big corporate companies to do something for you, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good on your part. It's like you really had to do something for yourself. Have a do for self mentality. But I ask you again, it's like the whole the whole blackity black stuff. I mean, I literally I'm asking genuinely, do you specifically have issues with black people in general, or it's just, I mean, when you say those things, you come off a little Sambo-ish when you say those things. You do. You come off a little Sambo, and I try to ignore it. I try to ignore it because literally you have a passion for these things, and I get it. You literally have a passion when you put out your comics, when you put out these things, and pretty soon you may be coming out with your own mainstream movie series. It's going to cost millions and millions and millions of dollars to make, but eventually you're going to put that out there, and you're going to present ISOM to the world in general. You're going to present ISOM to the world, and you're going to be competitive with the Marvel comics, the DC comics, and even the Image comics. I mean, we only have one particular Image character that everyone praises, and that's Spawn. Spawn is the head honcho, but of course, you got Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman on one side. You got Captain America, Hulk, and Thor in the other. So those are mainly just white characters, and of course, we harp on, and especially FBAs, they harp on black characters all day long. It's like Black Panther and and the Falcon and Blade. They all belong to us. They all belong. Those are black characters. No, no. Stan and Kirby made those people. They're the ones that made Wakanda. They're the ones that when it came out with it, Wakanda does not exist, although Africa does exist. South Africa, Uganda, Congo, Ghana, they all exist. You're not going to look on 56 countries, and you're going to find Wakanda there. You are not going to find Wakanda there. You're just not. Why do you think they're going to? Why do you think they canceled Wonder Man in the first place? Why do you think Harsha Ali Hussein, that's supposed to be the new Blade, is not going to be the new Blade? Because they wanted to write a script that did not fit him. And he said no to that script. And they literally are not gonna. I don't know if they're gonna have Wesley continue to play Blade. I don't know, because Doomsday is coming up, and then after Doomsday, the next following year is going to be something war, Secret Wars. After that is going to be Secret Wars, and when Secret Wars, I'm hoping that they have everybody, including Storm. Now, I don't know who's going to play Storm. It's not going to be Halle Berry. They're not going to be smart enough to put Halle Berry in there, because she's probably going to demand a contract. They're probably going to demand a contract. The only reason why they put Luke Cage back in there in the first place is because they only have one black character when it comes to the Defenders. Of course, you're going to have Iron Man. They're going to have Daredevil, which I love this particular Daredevil, and not Shall we name him? I mean, I don't have a problem with Ben Affleck. I don't have a problem because he played a good Batman. He played a decent Batman. But when you have a person in Halle Berry who has played this particular character, and I can see Grace Jones playing this particular character, but because she's 70 years old, she's not going to play this character. And Halle Berry is not too close to 70. She just turned 60. Who is going to play a particular character in Storm? Oh, just because Thor, Chris Hemsworth, Thor, and they practically have the same light. It's like, so what? So the hell what? You're gonna have. He has storm, ice storm. He can create storm, ice storm, electricity. It is very fucking strong. Storm is the weather. Storm practically can cause cast mechanics things from the sun and shoot them down to the earth. Viola Davis. Excuse me here. We got some people in the chat that obviously thinks this is funny. Viola Davis, really? Just because she played Woman King? Really? Try again. Try again. I'm looking for the voice. When she calls out to Mother Earth, I want to hear her voice. I just don't want lightning. Here, call the right. I want to hear the exact same voice that I have been looking at the comics for all that particular time. I can't send it because I'm still live right now. But I literally want to hear the voice, and of course I don't know what's going on with Falcon. I don't know what's going on with all the with Black Panther. They got the new Black Panther. People are already upset that this particular guy, the guy from Snowfall, could have had played a particular good Black Panther, but because you got a guy that came from the Haunt of the Living Dead or whatever show that is. I'll I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. We'll let it play out because again, I don't know how within a couple of years that the boy just automatically just grows up to become Black Panther when I would say if he was a teenager, if he played a teenager, I would have went with it. But he's a full grown ass man. He is a full grown ass man at this point. I don't know, but bottom line to all of this is, and when we try to make this simple and fun, is that the rant itself, I would say that the rant itself, I mean, some people are just going to have to take it with a grain of salt, but, and then there's the other side of it that need me mind you and you to understand what Black folks have gone through and continuously are going through to this very day to try to get a little bit of something, and to have that taken away. And if you don't think that these people who are in a position of power can absolutely take the thing that you cherish most, you are sadly mistaken. I will go ahead and I will exit out, and hopefully Eric, July AK, Young Ripper, we can have that discussion a little bit further. Again, I am a supporter of your comic books. I'm definitely supporting. I've been supporting you for a couple of years, and I definitely enjoy your work. And you do have a mouthpiece. You do know how to freestyle, my guy. You are very, very talented. But this, I mean, I just think we need to have that conversation, my guy. Kerry Washington, stop it. All right. Hopefully you get this, and I'll see you guys later.